It's a Tuesday, so I'm here. I'm here with you. I'm here continuing to remind myself what it means to slow down, be slow and steady. Actually, my kids' Bible study this morning at church was about responsibility, but honestly, they were talking about this parable, and the teacher was like, does anybody know what a parable is? And the kids were like, womp womp. Well, she was saying, it's like a fable. Who has heard of the tortoise and the hare? And some of the kids raised their hand and kind of, told about it. And she was talking about the tortoise and the hare, how slow and steady wins the race. And one of the kids in the class, so adorable, was like, yeah, I've heard that. And it got me thinking about how many fast habits we have in our life and how often we are the hare who's running and sprinting, kind of looking behind us like, oh man, I'm glad I'm not slow like them, or I'm glad I'm not slow like I used to be, and I'm glad I'm hustling now and I'm going for it. Or we have all this pressure to be number one, and we have this pressure we put on ourselves perhaps to achieve a certain level of whatever, for whatever. Maybe it honestly is just like God is trying to increase our capacity, balancing new things, dealing with this crazy world, and it just feels fast. Take a deep breath with me right now, because I'm going to remind you of a story in the Bible of a guy who had a giant mission ahead of him, but he paused and he was able to throttle his fast habits. It's a guy named Joshua. He was like the right-hand man of Moses, and then after Moses passed away, God pushed the baton onto Joshua. He had been preparing him for years and years, just like mentoring under Moses, following his footsteps, walking through this wilderness. And Joshua and Caleb, this other guy, were the only two people who made it from Egypt to the promised land. Nobody else did. Everyone else passed away, and there was this new generation. And God is like, look, I am going to ask you to do big things. I'm going to tell you that you have already got victory and achievement. You have already won the battles that you haven't even lifted a finger to yet. But you have to stop and recommit to me. You have to throttle your pedal, pump the brakes, and make sure that you build a monument to remember what I've done, make a recommitment to your identity, with your identity in me, and set up a place of worship so you can always come back to that slow place to recharge. And I'm talking about when Joshua led the Israelites through the Jordan River on dry ground, and where he landed in this place called Gilgal, and that was his place of worship. Now, before Joshua and the Israelites, there was 600,000 men, 20 and older, okay? A lot of people, not even including women and children, just 600,000 men. And so here's what I'm thinking, is that Joshua and these men have been wandering, right, for a long, long time. And they're like, I'm ready. I'm going to charge this place. I mean, we've been hearing about the land flowing with milk and honey for, almost a generation, for years. And they're hungry. They're eager. They're willing. But God says, wait, in just a little bit. So what they did is that they took 12 stones from the Jordan River, and they built up this 12-stone monument in Gilgal, and they had this worshipful service, and they celebrated Passover, and they had this moment right before they conquered 31 kings in 7 years. 31 kingdoms in 7 years. That is a lot of battling. That's a lot of accomplishment. That's a lot of victories. But it took a lot of work, a lot of faith, and a lot of trial and error, because not all the time Joshua and the Israelites got it right. There's a lot of times, for example, have you guys heard of Achan's sin, where he went into the town of Jericho, and instead of leaving all of the plunder, he took some with it and hid it under his tent? What caused his life is as well as caused the next battle for them to go into, the AI battle, it caused them to lose. Okay, so I'm going off on a tangent because I love the Old Testament. I love what we learned about in Joshua. I love the city of Gilgal and what Joshua and his crew did there. So what I'm imagining is for us to be able to throttle our fast habits, we need to have this home base, right? We need to have this home base where we can go out and work hard, face our challenges, go out and overcome our obstacles, come back to home base, come back to Gilgal, go out and face our giants, come back to home base, recharge, refresh, recommit our lives to make sure that we're never outside of God's plan, to make sure that we're never walking ahead of what Jesus's pace is. Because what victory is in that? How will you feel satisfied and content if when you're on the top of that mountain, if you ran to the finish line looking back and saying, wait a minute, God's not even in this, and you feel so empty? It's okay to slow down. It's okay to take one day at a time. The world is going to keep on spinning, and God wants you to honor your priorities. I spoke about this in my last blog and video, that I have 5 priorities this year, okay? 1, my family, my kids, number 1. 2, making sure that my home is a place full of life-giving. 3, making sure that I'm dating my spouse, making sure that me and Nick are on the right page. And 4 is my work. Now, what the hard thing is I told you this before, I enjoy working, but I can't even fit in number 4 until I've honored the priority of the first 3. And 5 is like entertainment, mindless entertainment, numbing out my mind, watching some Netflix, going, out with friends or whatever. Well, going out with friends is kind of like a recharge, so that's necessary. But like any type of purposelessness, like fun, mindless entertainment, scrolling on my phone, watching my shows, that's awesome and it's super fun. But I have to make sure that I have cared for the first 4 priorities to be a good steward of the time that God has given me here on earth. You know what I mean, guys? All right. I think I have food in my teeth. I like how I did that whole thing with food in my teeth. You guys are awesome. I hope this one was a little more short. I hope that this one was shorter, so you're able to get a compact message to understand what I think it means to throttle our fast habits. When we want to run, when we feel behind, when we feel like we should have already accomplished our goals 4 days ago or yesterday, or we should have already lost the 5 pounds last week and we haven't even started our New Year's resolutions, or we're glued to the television, we're glued to social media and all the drama that's going on in the world. And God is saying, throttle down. Close your thoughts, relax your mind. God is in control. God sees you, he sees the world, and he wants you to slow down. Honor him today, guys, okay? Love you.